What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Conversation Station. This is going to be my DC Comics Part 3, and today we're going to have 4 DC Comics, and the first one I got is the Tales of the Green Lantern's Corps. This is from the 1980s, and a really nice, beautiful green cover with all of our Green Lanterns on the front, and actually within just the first page, I got this little card for The Empire Strikes Back. It's a cool little like poster card, nothing on the back, but you know, still pretty cool. And on the first page, Tales of the Green Lantern Corps. We have Hal Jordan, and he has a jade ball of energy that's racing him. And this story is essentially all the Green Lanterns being called back to Oa to help with a enemy that was essentially lived on Oa and used to be, or was kind of with the Guardians. Grew up and raised with them, but just wasn't one of them, and he's evil and not as good as they are, and essentially he's come back to fight the Guardians and take down their Green Lanterns and everything that they love, and so they're calling their people back in order to help them out with that. And I read this a couple months ago, and I really enjoyed it. The story is really good, and the artwork is freaking awesome. It honestly just gets better as you go, getting to see all the Green Lanterns. We also have an ad for Batman and the Hearts of Darkness, and it's for Hostess Cupcakes. You gotta love that Hostess ad in there. Batman, you know, having some hijinks in order to get you some Hostess Cupcakes. It's one thing you'll never get away from, no matter how far back you go in anything, is ads and ad placement. And right here we got Hal Jordan and many of the Green Lanterns talking to the Guardians. Just some really cool pictures, and hopefully we get some cool stuff coming in the new Lanterns show that'll be coming eventually. Super excited for that, and you know, definitely want to get my hands on more Green Lantern comic books for that time. There's also, they have the help of Alan Scott, the original Green Lantern of a parallel world called Earth 2. So that was kind of cool. And he talks about how he had help. He needed his help in order to prevent some kind of Armageddon. So that was kind of cool. And then also there's this artwork over here of a hole being ripped through space. And I believe that's where the evil member, and his name is Krona. Krona. Not sure exactly how to say that, but yeah. Whether or not we'll see this enemy in the Lantern show, you know, you never know which stories they'll take from or which enemies you'll see. But this is definitely a possibility, being that we have some really cool stories and, you know, scenes from this. So whether or not we'll see any type of reference later would be interesting. But this one's an extremely fun read. A lot of the Guardians take a lot of hits, and I believe they lose a few of them go down, and it's a pretty epic fight, honestly. But you know, the Guardians, they're, you know, that willpower, it's just something different, and it always is. But yeah, that one is a really fun story, and the, you know, Guardians are attempting to put him back in his place, and we got a little Superman in Action Comics they always have like a little newspaper article in the back from like the Daily Planet or something on these, and I really like that about these comic books, even if it's not a Superman one. And then next we have Superman in Action Comics number 513, and I believe it has a date on the back of, let me double check, 1980. So in the front we have the return of Superman Island. I'll just show that cover a little better. And we got Superman floating through space, and they're saying, I claim this space island for our people. And it looks like somebody's actually like building stuff on top of him, which kind of reminds me of when, you know, episode of Futurama where Bender's floating through space and he gets like a whole little city built on top of him just because he's floating through space so long, and they kind of like look at him as God, which is basically what Superman gets looked at like almost every civilization he enters and goes through. Now this is one I have not read yet, and I honestly haven't even looked through it, so this is actually really cool. I love that artwork, that type of stuff right there, that artwork that really showcases his powers, like obviously, but him drilling through that earth right there, and them just showing, like, I thought that's really cool. That's pretty cool. I like that. That's my favorite kind of stuff right there. You know, and just of course, the action scenes. I mean, who doesn't love those? Like, they're just really awesome. And let's see. Oh, we got Jimmy Olsen right here, as I believe yesterday or day before was the anniversary of Jimmy Olsen. I believe it was yesterday. And we got Batman versus the League of Assassins in a small ad for Twinkie, which, you know me in the ads. Gotta love them, gotta show them. And so, yeah, this one looks like, oh, we even have a little CBS full double page. I believe is what it said. Yeah, CBS Saturday. We got Tarzan, Tom and Jerry, Fat Albert, Bugs Bunny. That's really cool. I love when they do the full, like, double page ads and stuff. Those are always fun to look at. We got Drac Pack in the middle. 11:30 a.m. Of course, you got Popeye. That's really cool. And right here, we got some really cool shots of Superman doing his thing. And the last magazine I got, or that I'm going to look through today, is one that I did recently that I just got done reading. And that one is a really good story. And we're going to talk about that right at the end. I also like showing off the ones that I haven't read just because it's, you know, fun to flip through and see all the stuff that I haven't seen yet. These ones come with like little extra stories called like Action Plus Airwave teams up with the Atom. It's just like a little side story that they have with this, I'm guessing, character they were trying to kind of just insert into these stories because there's a few different Superman comics that have just the story of Airwave. And this one, he teams up with the Atom and they get into some stuff. So I would definitely like to look up who that is and, you know, how much more in the comics they are. But yeah, that one's really awesome. And the next one I got for you is Superman in Action Comics number 488, and I believe this is the same from 1980 if I'm not mistaken. It's 1978. And in the beginning, we got Superman battles Microwave Man. Microwave Man. He's got a nice bright yellow and green, well, yellow and silver suit. And then Airwave Man. We got that little story, just like the last one. And on the back, an ad for some old gliders. So that's pretty cool. So this is punch-proof, bulletproof, capture-proof. That's me, Microwave Man. And as I said before, all the like little areas that could be filled out and stuff were luckily left blank in these. So happy that, you know, none of my ones got all written in or scribbled in or anything like that. This is like an ad for Slim Jim, so you can, you know, you can get a Slim Jim shirt. And it even says, remember how many times you felt left out because you were broke? Places the gang was going and you weren't included. It's basically like a make sure you never get left out again type thing. That's interesting. Yeah. I would like to see how Superman fights this enemy, being that actually it looks like right there that Microwave Man might be an older guy, or at least not be who he seems to be. He must be using some kind of power to de-age himself or something, because in that cover he looked a little younger. It's definitely going to be an interesting story. Now right there we have Microwave Man headbutting Superman, and he flies straight back. And then on the other side, just more of Superman flying in. Now, I know I don't go necessarily in the order of like reading out these comics in the story, which, I mean, if you have these comics, I mean, you're obviously going to read them yourself, but if you're not, you know, I wouldn't want to sit here and waste your time and read through every single page, as much as I would, you know, like to read with people. I just don't think that's the kind of content people would like. I think just rather looking at like the pictures real quick, seeing the cool artwork, seeing if this is a comic book you might be interested in, and you could go online and you could, you know, purchase it yourself and have a look at it and read it and see if that's the story that you like. That's the reason why I just kind of flip through it and talk about it, talk about the stories, talk about the artwork, because if it's something that might interest you or you might like, or if you just want to see it in little bits and pieces, you know, it's whatever you're into. But overall, the artwork and the ads are just something to be preserved and something to be checked out, you know, for even people that don't necessarily have the books. We got the Super Hang-Ups, which I think I saw that another ad in another magazine. We got Superman, Wonder Woman, and Spider-Man. And there's Super Hang-Ups, 25 cents, $3 value for only 25 cents. So that's pretty cool. Get Super Hang-Ups for only $0.25. And then, oh, actually I've seen this as well in another magazine. It's like a full page, and it's got Joker right there in the middle. And it's like this is a Milk Duds, so yeah, this is all for candy. And oh, yep, the DC Galaxy of Super Goodies. Gotta love it. The Batmobile, stuff like that. And the Stunt Cycle, Sky Heroes, DC Super Placemats. That's pretty cool. And it even has like the prices and everything and where you can get it at. It's pretty awesome. Gotta love that. Alright, and right here is where we get the ending to the Microwave Man and Superman story. As I suggested, or suspected, Microwave Man was using some kind of microwave beam to make himself strong and fast and young. And it seems to have kind of taken its toll on him by the end of his journey. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see why he, you know, came to Earth and why he was doing what he's doing. And of course, at the end, we have our Airwave, which I'm sure was just to give, you know, kids at the time a little bit more of a story, something else to read. Oh yeah, and at the end of this, we have it's like a DC Comics thing. It's like but it's for specifically like an announcement, I mean. And let's see, the DC Explosion coming this summer with Kid Flash. So it's like a big thing basically about what's coming and something from the writers and stuff like that. And they're doing a good job with this Airwave character, is like adding in a bunch of characters. Last one they had the Atom, and with this story they did a tiny little edition of the Green Lantern, so that's cool. You know, they're adding other characters in the stories, even though this is just kind of like a side character that's been added on to the end of Superman stuff. So yeah, definitely interested in reading more about Airwave and seeing what that story is. I've read one of the stories with the Superman comic. I just need to get to the rest of them and see if that kind of pieces together the story a little more. Now, last but certainly not least is Superman in Action Comics number 786. Now, I showed a little bit of this in my DC Comics Part 1, but I recently read it completely and got through it, and it was really a great read, great Superman story, classic Superman story, and so I just wanted to talk about it. And in the beginning, we open up with some really cool artwork of just some kids with their mother and their mother's friend. They're looking for Superman, the kids are looking for Superman, just trying to see, I think it's like a parade, and they're just, you know, happy to see him, trying to see him, and the kid looks up and essentially sees that he's fighting this huge, like, demon character, and he essentially says, like, oh, Superman's up there fighting Satan. And, you know, it's really scary and crazy looking. But as, you know, time goes on, obviously, Superman can see right through him, and it's just a machine, and he's able to take him out and, you know, easily deal with him. As he's dealing with that, a cop says, hey, did you hear about that crazy person trying to jump off the building that's calling for you? And at that point, like, that's when Superman hears and picks it up and is like, oh, I think I just did. And Superman races over, flies super fast to go save this person. But as he's in the midst of saving the person, they kind of transform, and their ear turns into like the elf's ear, you know, like a different, you know, creature. And they teleport, and Superman is teleported out. And we also have a old Tobacco is Wacko ad. If you remember those were funny. I believe this one was from 2000. This magazine is from 2002. But yeah, as Superman's teleported, he's teleported to a different world. He looks around, there's a bunch of people staring at him, calling him a god, and as he's about to beat up the person who basically kidnapped him, he realizes that that's essentially a child, and that the child's grandmother is the one who brought him there. This one, boom. We have the Skittles ad. It's like an Aztec kind of thing, kind of cool. But yeah, so obviously you'd be mad too if somebody just kind of abducted you. But essentially they explain to him that to them he's like a god, and he is well revered. They know about the things that he's done, about how much he's a hero, and they want him to help them save their planet. And, you know, he explains, you know, why don't you do it? And they explain what's going on. Somebody's taken over their planet and basically is using their fear as power. This person draws on their fear and their fear of him to, you know, be powerful and rule their entire planet. And Superman agrees to help. At first he's kind of a little mad, but he figures, you know, he'll help him. But as he's there, he figures out that their planet has a red sun. And something that they obviously didn't factor in and they didn't know about Superman is that obviously his powers drain when he's in front of a red sun. So he, you know, tells him you have to fire your research team. But he still makes an attempt to help them. He thinks, I got enough gas in the tank. I think I can get this done and take on one man and one army before my powers, you know, go out. He's like, after all, I just got done taking on fighting a whole war. So, you know, he basically tries it. And he does a pretty good job. He smashes through, figures out who's, you know, essentially responsible for it. And once he figures it out, he figures out it's that gentleman right there. And by the name of, what was his name? It was a tyrant. Kanjaro, that's what it was. Kanjaro, the would-be conqueror, that's what he calls him. And this guy obviously knows who Superman is and is a little bit scared of him. It's funny because this character was in the Justice League show, the animated one, and he's the one who essentially tries to get Green Lantern thrown in jail for blowing up a planet falsely, by the way. But that's kind of like the character that they use. So I was like, when I first seen that guy, I was like, oh, I know I've seen that character before. And thinking about it, I was like, oh yeah, that's exactly where I've seen him from. But yeah, eventually, you know, the character, he shows that he's much more powerful with that staff and that he, you know, can do whatever based on these people's fear. And Superman takes the beating because, as I said before, Red Sun starts to, you know, take its toll on Superman. So he just decides that in order to make this guy less powerful, he's going to, in true Superman fashion, just show what a bully this guy is and make it so these people need to not be afraid of him. And Superman takes the beating and, you know, takes the beating as much as anybody should. And eventually the people stand up and they fight for themselves. And that's, you know, what Superman was waiting for. And once that tide turns, obviously all their fear turns to pride and they win in pure heroic fashion. And Superman did his job by being a hero and showing, not necessarily saving them, but saving them by showing them they can save themselves. And I just thought that was a really cool Superman story, and I thought that was really awesome. The artwork's a little different, but I love it just the same. It's a really cool story and enjoyable. I appreciate any time you spend watching these videos. I know they're a little wacky sometimes, and not necessarily the greatest, but I am doing the very best I can, and I intend to make better and greater videos in the future. Again, do appreciate any time you spend watching my video. Thank you, and I hope to see you again.